Good morning. And it's been a little while since I made a video, and the main reason for that is it was the summer holidays, and I went on holiday with my partner and my lad, and then basically just spent some time with them, and it was nice. It was nice not to be thinking about making YouTube videos. But I'm back now. I had intended on coming back last week, but unfortunately there were other things drawing on my time last week as well, not least putting down flooring in the attic, which is extremely exciting, and I'm sure you want to hear about that. But anyway, to the video today. This isn't a video that I intended to make. I actually wanted to make a video about Sony this morning, but there was breaking news last night, and the breaking news is, as you are reading here, Halo lead Bonnie Ross is leaving 343 Industries and Xbox. And then it goes on to say Bonnie Ross has led Microsoft's Halo brand for 15 years. So yeah, it's a big story because obviously we know some of the issues with Halo, and it's had problems with content and all the rest of it. And some of those problems go way back. You know, you go back to Halo 4 and then the Master Chief Collection and Halo 5 and now through into Halo Infinite. And it's been dogged with problems. Nevertheless, I will say that Halo has continued to be a game I've enjoyed. And I do think Bonnie Ross has, I know a lot of people are going to give her a lot of stick, but I think she has kept Halo going and kept Halo in the forefront, really. I mean, it's still a big game, but she is leaving, and, you know, I think it probably is the right thing to happen. I mean, she helped set up 343 Industries. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you go to her Wikipedia page, you'll see that she was directly involved in setting up 343 Industries. We can see here it says about her career and whatnot. It says by 2005, Ross was general manager for Microsoft Game Studios. When Halo developer Bungie split from Microsoft in 2007, Microsoft created an internal team to oversee the franchise. Ross recalled that her colleagues felt Halo was a waning property and looked to contracting an outside company to produce new games. But she argued differently, and then she became acquainted with the franchise through the tie-in novel Halo, or she had become acquainted with the franchise through the tie-in novel Halo. And her back history is that she's got an interest in science fiction and all the rest of it. So she was ostensibly a really, really good fit. I mean, she had a lot of experience. If you look here, these are some of the games: Zoo Tycoon, Fusion Frenzy, Jade Empire, Mass Effect. She was involved in these first-party and third-party properties, getting them onto Xbox and getting them up and running. So, I mean, she is an industry veteran at this stage, and she has been heavily involved with Halo for what, as I say, 15 years or something they said? Yeah, 15 years. So it's a long time, and it's going to be a big wrench. And look, this is something I want to say here briefly before we move on. Whatever you think about her handling of Halo, she's been with Halo for 15 years. She's got a lot of staff around her. From what I've read of people who've had associations with her and worked with her, or just known her through conferences or, you know, through Halo events or whatever, she comes across as a decent person. So whatever else, some of the dogpiling I've seen on Twitter about her and good riddance and all this kind of stuff, I think that's out of order. I think I do think it's probably time for her to move on, but let's not, you know, pile on her too much. And I actually think that some of the problems with Halo and 343 Industries illustrate something that is a bigger problem in the industry, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first things first, let's have a quick look at her statement. This is what she says on leaving. While I had hoped to stay with Halo until we released the winter update, I am letting you know I will be leaving 343 and attending to family medical issues. Now, or to a family medical issue. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't know whether it's with her. I don't know whether it's with a member of her family other than herself. Reading this, it seems like it is. You know, we get these kind of things when people leave companies all the time, that they've got a family issue to deal with. Nevertheless, if there is a genuine family issue going on, and I've no reason to, you know, disbelieve that, then I wish her all the best. And we should all wish her all the best. Nobody wants to have family members who are sick. And dealing with that is tough. I know a few years ago, my lad's headmistress, or head, I should say, because we're not allowed to be gender specific anymore. But some years ago, my kid's head had to leave her post because her husband had fallen seriously ill. And it was horrendous. It was horrible. She was a lovely woman, brilliant head, and she had to leave. And it was really upsetting for her, and it was really upsetting for the school and the kids. The kids loved her. And so it was a tough time. And, you know, anyone who's had family members who've been ill or in hospital or anything like that will know that these things put a lot of pressure on you, and it's a tough thing to deal with. So anyone who's dogpiling on Bonnie Ross at this stage probably needs to step off. Whatever you think, Halo is a game. It's not as important as people being hurt or having medical problems or whatever it might be. Those things are more important. And so if she needs to step aside for that reason, then all power to her. And I hope everything gets resolved quickly and that she's able to come back into the industry. But anyway, let's carry on with what she says. I'm incredibly proud of the work everyone at 343 Industries has done with Halo Infinite, the Master Chief Collection, the Halo television series, and so much more. And I'm one of the few people who thinks that, okay, Master Chief was problematical, and the Halo television series a lot of people don't like. I think the Halo television series is fine. I know, and people are too invested. And so if it's not exactly what they want, they get all up in arms. And this is the problem in gaming, and we'll touch on that a bit more in a minute. And so much more. It has been an honour to serve alongside the team for the last 15 years and to be part of a universe that I love. I don't think we should lay too much blame at Bonnie Ross for some of the failings with Halo. She obviously was head of the studio, and she gets the blame for things that have gone wrong. But if we look at loads of other games out there, lots of things are going wrong with gaming at the moment. And I think, as I keep saying, this is indicative of a wider problem. But we'll get to that in a minute. If we go to the Windows Central page again, down the page here, this is Microsoft's statement. It says, and they made this to Windows Central. It says, after more than 28 years in gaming at Microsoft, including 15 years leading 343 Industries and Halo through the most ambitious steps forward, or its most ambitious steps forward, and that's important, ambitious, remember that, Bonnie Ross will be leaving Microsoft and spending more time with her family. We are thankful for her leadership of 343, during which the team launched Halo 4, Halo 5, Halo the Master Chief Collection, the Halo television series, and Halo Infinite. We wish her all the best. Head of production Pierre Hines will become studio head effective immediately. The 343 team is hard at work shipping the winter update, the biggest Halo Infinite update since launch. And obviously that's one of the issues. Excuse me, I'm dropping my pen. That's one of the issues that people have had with Halo, that the updates haven't really been coming thick and fast. And look, I think most people will say that the core game of Halo, certainly the campaign, is okay. It's pretty decent. Only one biome, which is a bit of a shame, and I would like to see more campaign stuff. Personally, I'd like to see more biomes and add to that. Whether we'll see that, I don't know, as we will. That's the problem. That's the problem for me. I think they're concentrating on the online, which for obvious reasons that can be monetized. But again, we'll get to that a bit more in a minute. But if we go down here, Bonnie Ross's job is now going to be split into 3 different jobs, posts, roles, whatever you want to call them. So we've got Pierre Hines on the left here. He's going to be the studio head. And then we've got general manager of franchise is going to be Brian Koski. And then business and operations lead will be Elizabeth Van Wyck. And now there's different arguments can be made about this. I think that Halo's so big now, they probably do need to have more than one person just running these things. Obviously, Pierre Hines is going to be the head honcho, and these other two guys are going to be, doing distributed work that would have otherwise perhaps been done by Bonnie Ross in the past. So maybe it's an admission by Microsoft that they were piling too much work onto Bonnie Ross. And I've already talked about, the way she's left and whether she was, well, I didn't say this, but whether she was pushed or whether she decided to leave. Probably a bit of both, to be honest. Even with the family issue, she said she was intended to leave anyway, so maybe this just did speed things up a bit. But as I've already mentioned, the state of Halo isn't fantastic. The fact that they are going to be concentrating on this winter's update, some people are already saying that the game's dead. I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, we've seen other games that looked dead. No Man's Sky being the obvious example, looked dead, and that's doing pretty good now. Sea of Thieves, dropped, didn't really do much, and now it's got a big audience, some very dedicated followers. Not my sort of thing. But, Halo can be turned around, and hopefully these three guys down here can help do that. But as I mentioned already, I think some of this is bigger than just Halo. I think we've got a problem with gaming generally. And I made a video some time ago where I talked about games being too big, too much emphasis on content. And this is where we are now. We've got expectations are way too high from gamers. And part of the reason for that is down to the publishers and the developers themselves. They create so much hype, and then it's impossible to deliver on that hype. They promise too much and deliver too little. And we see it time and time again. We've seen it with games like Anthem, most of the Ubisoft games in recent years, Battlefield from EA, and even recently with The Last of Us remake. They were saying it's a remake. It's just another remaster. It's not a remake from the ground up, which is what they said it was, which it isn't. And so, we see this time and time and time and time again where these developers, publishers promise loads and don't deliver as much. And I think some of that is because they can't. The expectations now for these games are so huge. If we go back to the original Halo, it was a lot smaller in terms of a game than what we're getting now from Halo. And okay, look, the games have grown over the years. Same with things like Call of Duty. Call of Duty was a much smaller game when it started. But as games continue to go on and they release new iterations of those games, they grow and they grow. They get bigger and bigger teams. The expectations are higher and higher. And then gamers have what I would describe as unrealistic expectations. I was playing Wolfenstein, The New Order, I think it was, last night. And it's a very simple game. It's a linear, single-person shooter. There's no online, but it's a blast. And some of the reason why I think that game is so good is because it's so focused. There's not loads of different things going on. They're not having to balance plates. And that seems to me that what's going on with game design now is that everyone's balancing plates. They've got online, they've got live service, they've got DLC, they've got the pressures from the company telling them that they have to monetize this and monetize that. And I find it hard to understand how anyone can keep on top of that. Certainly any one person. So, I don't know. I think the demands both from publishers and from gamers are too high. I think the companies themselves, 343 specifically in this case, are, because they're under pressure, they offer too much. They say they're going to deliver this and they're going to deliver that, and then they don't. I mean, we've seen it recently with the couch co-op. One of the staples of Halo is not going to be there. And why is that? Well, it's probably because they developed a whole new engine because they want to make this open world game, and now they can't do the couch co-op. Although people have said that it's a lot easier to do than they've let on. Who knows? I don't know. But to some extent, somebody like Bonnie Ross is in this position, and she has to be the one that falls ultimately because she's the head. And that's what should happen, really, if things are going wrong. Whether you can lay it all at her door or not, the fact of the matter is she is the one running the company. She pitched 343 Industries to Microsoft. And, she's been responsible for delivering these games. And it's not been a stellar performance in that sense, I don't think. But again, we've seen this with so many studios. And I really do think that this is indicative of the problems with gaming today. Too much is expected from every quarter, and then it's impossible to deliver. You can't keep delivering bangers, and some of the Sony fanboys are going to come in and say, "Well, Sony do, yeah, but look at the games that they deliver that are bangers." Games like Ghosts of Tsushima, Spider-Man. These games, single player only. They're much smaller. They're not these big live service games, and I think Sony might have problems as they move into the live service arena. They might have difficulty transitioning into that because that whole thing, everyone's biting off more than they can chew. We see it time and time and time again. And Halo is one of the most recent examples of a successful game becoming a live service and not being able to deliver. And Bonnie Ross, well, she's a casualty of that, like so many other people before her. And we're going to see others. It's going to happen to others. Might be one of these guys. Might be all three of these guys. Who knows? It's just not sustainable. Jim Sterling was talking about all these live service games not being sustainable. It's not sustainable. You can't keep playing all these games. There's so many of them out there now. They're too big. They're too ungainly. They're difficult to develop for. They must give everyone working on them bloody headaches. The reason people get into making games probably very varied. But some of it is because it's creative. And I know, reading, again, going back to Bonnie Ross's biography, she liked the creativity of it. That's why she wanted to do it. Look, it says here. Desiring more creative freedom, Ross switched to a technical writing program in the journalism department during her 1987-88 school year. She wanted to be involved in something creative. And as things get bigger and bigger, and we see this in all industries, I know people who've worked their way up through industries, and as you work your way up, you have less and less involvement with the actual creativity of things. But games are too big. It can't keep going on. These games can't keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more ungainly. And the expectations of the graphics always have to be groundbreaking. Now, you look at Halo, the graphics are fine. Halo Infinite I'm talking about here. The graphics are fine, but they're not groundbreaking. But people are moaning, some people anyway, are moaning about the fact that they're not groundbreaking. Well, they've gone from being basically a corridor shooter to an open world game. And, it's a whole different kettle of fish. And I don't know. I just think maybe we need to refocus. Look at making some games that are a little bit smaller and a little bit more manageable. And games like Halo, they're going to keep coming. But gamers need to reassess as well. We need to stop expecting so much from these games. Still hold the companies to account. We want quality. But frankly, personally, I'd always go for quality over quantity. And this obsession with content, and some of the obsession with content comes from the fact that if you have content that you add in, you can monetize it. And some of the pressures there are monetization. So we've been sold this idea of content. 15, 20-hour game is seen as too short by a lot of gamers. What a bloody ridiculous idea. I don't buy a book by how thick it is. I buy a book by how good it is. If I've read books by an author before and I like that book, or the books that I've read, I'll then buy other books by them because I think they're good. Or there's a chance that they'll be good. I don't go in and go, oh, that's the thickest on the shelf, I'll buy that. What a stupid approach. The whole idea, this whole obsession with content leads to a situation like this. And I'm not talking about Bonnie Ross being fired. There's all sorts of other reasons behind it. But it leads to some of the problems we've seen with Halo Infinite and Anthem and Ubisoft games and Battlefield and any number of other games you care to mention. It's ridiculous and it's unsustainable and it needs to have a rethink. It won't have a rethink. We'll keep seeing this kind of thing happening time and time again. I'll be making another video 6 months to a year down the line saying exactly the same thing about another game. But hey, what can you do? But anyway, look, that's my view. You might have completely different views on this. I don't know what you think about Bonnie Ross and her family issue. Let's not get into that too much. I mean, if she has got genuine problems with a family member, then, all we can do is wish her the best. She's been successful and I'm sure she'll continue to be successful as she goes down the road. She's not killed anyone. Things, it's a game at the end of the day. And it's still an enjoyable game, even if it hasn't delivered everything that was promised. I still enjoy playing the career, especially. But anyway, as I say, let me know what you think in the comments. Rambled on a bit. It's supposed to be about a 5-minute video and it's gone on for 22 minutes. That's what happens when you've been away for a while. Anyway, I'm off to get myself a cup of tea and rest my voice, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Hopefully, it won't be very long. Cheers.